everybody. You are listening to Ex Post Watcho, where I, Elana, and my friend Jason watch movies that we have seen in our past, either one or both of us, and see if they hold up. This week we are doing another musical. I am subjecting Jason to it. We're going to be watching Singin' in the Rain. Jason, I know you haven't seen Singin' in the Rain. Do you know anything about it?
I know the song Singin' in the Rain because I've heard it. It was in A Clockwork Orange. That's about it. Yes, well, maybe don't get any expectations of what this might be based on A Clockwork Orange. Okay. Yeah, this is going to be my second musical, so this will be interesting. I think The Sound of Music, I ended up really liking that. So maybe it'll happen again. I don't know. This one I feel a lot more like leery going into. Yeah, I think you have good reason to. Okay, but I think this is a classic. It's one of the most well-recognized, beloved musicals of all time. 1952. There's a Broadway musical, but it was adapted and premiered in 85, which I was kind of surprised about when I was looking things up because I thought it was earlier than that. It is Gene Kelly, Debbie Reynolds, and Donald O'Connor. Also, just a little shout out, Sid Charisse and Rita Moreno are also in this, and I'm huge fans. I'm not huge fans. I am a huge fan of theirs. That's proper grammar. And Gene Kelly also co-directed this with Stanley Donen, who did things like On the Town, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, Damn Yankees. Those are sort of well-known classics as well. And he has a whole list of directing credits. This is a real, true, musical. There's singing and dancing. There is a legitimate story to it, but there's a lot more ta-ta-ta-ta, ta-ta-ta-ta. I don't know if you know this. Tap dancing is really, really hard. I believe it. I think it's not going to look hard because the people doing it in this movie are pros, but it's extremely difficult. And so, if anything, I think you will at least appreciate the talent of these people. This is true classic Hollywood. You had to sing and dance and act and, all that kind of jazz. The movie is also about Hollywood. So without saying too much, takes place in 1927, and they're moving from silent movies to the talking pictures. And there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. It's actually really funny. I would say it's just as much a comedy as it is a musical. Very wholesome, obviously. I don't know if I should. There's a story about Gene Kelly that makes me not like him very much. Maybe I'll save that for the second half because I want you to enjoy your viewing experience. And just leave me hanging okay. He's a really wonderful dancer. I'm more of a Fred Astaire gal. Everyone's sort of like, are you a Fred Astaire or Gene Kelly fan? I'm more Fred Astaire. Fred Astaire was like... I'm giving you a blank stare because I don't know who any of these people are. Fred Astaire was part of... he's one of the other... Maybe the other very, very famous dancers from this same period. He's a little bit older, I think, than Gene Kelly, but... He dances very up and is very elegant, and he's very slim and I don't know how tall he is, but really elegant. Whereas Gene Kelly's sort of known for being this almost blue collar type, and he's a little stockier and he dances really down and low and a little bit not harder, but it's less refined and less elegant. So there's a big, there's a divide. You're either an Astaire or Kelly gal, and I prefer Fred Astaire. Anyway, I'll share my little Hollywood inside gossip with you after we watch it, and it will contribute to why I prefer Astaire. But I think that Gene Kelly's really charming in this movie. It's a lot of fun. When I first watched it, I was kind of surprised at how much I laughed and how funny it was. So I hope that there's enough meat and enough humor that it will keep you interested. And I think you're going to recognize more songs in this than you think you might as well, just from popular culture. Interesting. Yeah.
I am genuinely interested to see this. Like, this is not, I mean, musicals I haven't delved much into. I don't know much about tap dancing. I think this will be like the most tap dancing I've ever seen. So maybe I'm sure I'll be impressed by it. I guess it's a question of whether I'll be like interested in it. But no, I'm optimistic. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to see this.
Yeah, I think we've been watching a lot of pretty heavy stuff lately and long sort of dramatic movies. And I think this will be a nice little pleasant ray of sunshine in the midst of, dead wife and drug land. I don't know.
Wait, so that's not what this is about?
I don't want to say too much. I don't want to spoil anything for you.
Is this told non-linearly?
This is where Nolan got his inspiration for Memento. Anyway, yeah, I actually don't want to say too much because I want you to kind of go in and hopefully be pleasantly surprised. I think it's better if you don't go in with too many expectations, especially since you're not a musical guy. I think this one might be the one I'm worried about the most in terms of stuff that you haven't seen yet, aside from The Sound of Music, but you liked that one, so we shall see.
I'm going in optimistic and willing.
Yeah, that's the attitude. Okay, well, let's go watch it, and we'll come back and see if you hated it and want to end the podcast. Hey, we're back. We just watched Singin' in the Rain, a classic Hollywood musical. I was a little worried Jason would leave the podcast indefinitely if he didn't like this one. Wasn't sure it would be his bag. But Jason, what did you actually think of this movie?
I have great news. The podcast lives another day. Not getting away that easy. I was apprehensive, I think, going into this one because it really felt like the most like musical, musical. You promised me lots more ta in this one compared to The Sound of Music, and it definitely has that. But I found myself really liking it. It works well as a comedy. Like, there's a lot of clever, fun humor in it. It is it's a good looking movie in a lot of ways. Like, it's got these really nice sets. I love the colors in it. It kind of gave me this feeling of like, wow, color stuff must have been fairly new at that time, right, all things considered. And it sort of it feels like a celebration of like, look at how many colors we can put on the screen. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Dancing good, music good. Love the characters, love the actors. Good time.
That's a great promotion for it. Dancing good, music good, love the actors, good
song
time.
Good.
Yeah. I'm really glad that you liked it. I think it was a lot funnier than I remembered it, or maybe I was worried that it was maybe really funny for my sisters and myself when we were growing up, and that was because we watched a lot of old movies like this, maybe too many Jerry Lewis movies, and we were kind of
that's what I was expecting. I was kind of expecting like a Jerry Lewis sort of thing.
Yeah. But I think it's really quite clever, and it's very quippy. I think a lot of us who maybe grew up around our grandparents and their friends quite a bit, this will feel very comfortable and charming. So yeah, about classic Hollywood. I mean, that's really what this story is about moving from silent film to talking film. And we open the movie with Lena Lamont and Don Lockwood arriving at the premiere of their latest movie. Fans are going wild. I loved this scene, actually. This opening scene really sets the tone for how sort of bonkers Hollywood and celebrity are and were.
Yeah, there's like a woman there doing voiceover commentary the whole time, which just seems really strange. I guess that's what you do when you're in the crowd there, is you it's like you're watching TV before TV was around. Or was it? I don't know. Yeah, the crowd, I love the crowd cheering bit. Like it, I don't know, that I was impressed kind of immediately with like, oh, this is actually like really funny. Yeah, when Cosmo shows up, they're like, they all get disappointed. I like that Olga lady because she looks like Cate Blanchett's character in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, she's pretty outrageous. I really enjoy like Lena and Dawn coming in, and they're sort of this fake Hollywood couple. I mean, later Dawn says to her, like, there's never been anything between us, just air. She's completely zonkers for him. So that's set up pretty quickly. And then we get immediately Dawn's story. Like, she's like, what's your story? You know, tell us about Don Lockwood. And he goes into this bullshit story of how he made it. Dignity. Always dignity.
Always dignity.
But it's just him and Cosmo scrapping along, which for a moment I was like, wait, are Dawn and Cosmo supposed to be around the same age? Because Gene Kelly's like 12 years older than Donald O'Connor, who plays Cosmo. And it's quite obvious that he's significantly older. But regardless, I really like their bromance here and throughout the movie. They work well off each other, I think.
Yeah, their whole kind of like history scene, you know, they're doing their fiddle dance. I was like, I was impressed with the dancing. I was like, this is funny and entertaining.
Yeah, I think they're two of the most talented dancers on film ever, just kind of goofing around and doing completely ridiculous things, and which gets even more ridiculous as the movie goes on. I like the backstory of him weaseling his way into Hollywood. Like, again, as if we're supposed to pretend this classic Hollywood movie star with these classic Hollywood movie star looks has to like really rough it out and
as
work his way in as a stuntman.
I do not buy him as a stuntman at all.
But the stunts look really cool that they show us.
Yeah, I was actually like, wait, those are real stunts. Like, they crash a plane into a building. I mean, it's sped up, but that's still kind of like a whole ordeal. They blow up a building at one point, and a dude rides a motorbike off a cliff. Not Gene Kelly, because they cut away, but he like rides a motorbike off a cliff, and the guy like lands in the water, and it does not look like a nice like perfect dive. It looks like he fucking belly flops or something. Is that guy dead?
Yeah, that wouldn't fly with all the unions and such these days.
Yeah, they don't mess around with that kind of stuff.
No. So yeah, I really like their little backstory. I thought it was really funny. And we see their movie is premiered. Everyone loves it. I love the line of the two women in the crowd about Lena. She's so refined. I think I'll kill myself.
Yeah, that line felt very like that fits in today easily. The words would be a little bit different, but I'm like, oh, I know that feeling.
Yes, exactly. And I was wondering, okay, so obviously I've seen this movie a bunch of times. I was wondering how much you picked up on before the moment where Lena is going to go do her speech after the premiere. If you picked up on the fact that she doesn't say a word up until this point.
I definitely noticed it because they have a scene where it's basically where he gets hired to be a movie star. He meets her and he's like, hey, how's it going? And she just like is giving him the cold shoulder. And then they're like, Dawn, you're the man now. And then she's like, ooh, you know, so she's like, but she doesn't speak in that scene. So she's just kind of doing these weird like movements and stuff like that. So it was very apparent in that moment.
Yeah. I feel like, was it weird? Like, were you like, what the hell is going on? Or were you kind of like, oh, I guess this is how they made movies back in the day? Because I feel like knowing why she's not speaking for the reveal of her voice is very funny watching it, having that context. But I wasn't sure how it plays when you don't know yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think a ton of it in that scene because it's the reveal of her voice happens fairly shortly after. Like, you know, it's within a few minutes. So I knew it was silent movies, so that kind of made sense. And like, she's doing some kind of silent acting thing, but it didn't strike me as unusual the way it was sort of paced out.
Yeah. I love the reveal of her voice. Like, she has the best lines, I think, and she is this very beautiful, glamorous woman, and she's in all of these silent movies. You know, it's all body language and it's all very extreme. And then she's really pissed. You know, what's the big idea? Am I dumb or something?
Yeah. Yeah, she's great. Like, she's one of the best characters, like, especially towards the end when she's, like, really, like, Machiavellian and evil. Like, she's got some good lines and good delivery. Her voice is, like... I wonder what that actress's voice really sounds like. I'm
Yeah.
sure she's putting it, doing a bit of a performance here. But she sounds like a mix of Kristen Wiig doing an impression of Jennifer Tilly and Lois Griffin from Family Guy.
That is exactly it. On the nose, Jason. So they leave the premiere, and Don loses his mind. He's like, there's all these rabid fans, and he's like, I gotta get out of here. What's the easiest way? I know, I'll jump on top of that train and then boot it into a moving vehicle.
You know what? Another stunt. That was actually like an impressive stunt. Like he gets on a moving car, then he gets on a moving bus, and then they cut away to another kind of further away shot. So I don't know if it's still Gene Kelly at that point, but then someone jumps off that bus into the car, and I was like, shit, that's like, those are real stunts.
Mm-hmm.
Probably like way more dangerous back in the day.
Actually, yeah, like old Hollywood stuntmen and the things that they did, especially comedians as well, just what they would do for a laugh, is pretty cool to look into, but that's for another day.
Yeah, they also set up in this intro scene her wanting to give a speech, and they're like, it's not a great idea. You kind of actually feel bad for her a little bit in that moment, although you sort of understand at the same time maybe why.
Yeah, absolutely. So then Dawn just comes from above into the car of Kathy, played by Debbie Reynolds. First of all, I love her so much in this. She's so charming and sweet and wholesome, but she's also, I love the way she really tells him to eat shit by the end of this scene. This is a real case of distracted driving as well. Like, she's really, that classic, oh, my hands are whoa, going all over the wheel. And she's looking at him for a very extended periods of time. They're supposed to be in Hollywood at this point. I can't imagine traffic is super light. There's probably still horses kicking around.
Yeah, you've got peripheral vision, and back in the day, people had better attention spans compared to how we are now. You'd think we'd be better at it since, we're looking at our phones so much, but I think they actually had the skill back then.
So she really, she finds out who he is and really dumps on him in all of his movies. He's not a real actor like her. She's a stage actress. Real acting. Yeah,
she's a little bit like, she's not deliberately mean to him. She kind of is saying a bunch of stuff, I think, without realizing who it is. No. That's not exactly true. She knows he's an actor, but she's like, yeah, you do bullshit acting. You don't really act. You don't mouth sounds. And he takes it very personally and becomes a huge prick.
This is some real soft sexual assault. #MeToo that happens in this scene in his sort of defensive response to her bruising his ego.
Yeah, and he's very mean about it too. He's like, oh, you're going to be famous. You're going to be in New York and get a gig. And blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, both of them are just two fragile egos go on a road trip. He has some really scary lines here too. Like, she's like, oh, you're only a shadow. And then later on, he's like, oh, he's like basically just over top. Like, she's the tiniest little thing and he's over top of her. He's like, oh, what can I do to you? I'm only a shadow. Fear not, sweet lady. I will not molest you. Oh, my God.
I think the word molest, I mean, it technically does mean the same thing, but that might have been a bit more commonplace back then, if that makes sense.
Regardless, this
Leave
is
my
horrifying.
belongings unmolested, please.
She tells him to beat it, though. So she's not taking a shit, which is great. I like this. We've got some women who are standing up for themselves in this movie. Good on them. And then he eventually arrives at the after party.
Where she also is going to, which is sort of like fortuitous. This movie does rely a little bit on like coincidences and just sort of like things like that. But I mean, that's how movies work.
Well, you hear all those stories from, old Hollywood stories about how people happen to be in the right place at the right time. And, not like today when you got to be like, please, just watch my demo reel. Please, just anybody, please.
You have to buy thousands of bots on Twitter to get a follower count enough to get someone's attention.
Exactly.
Instead of just showing up and doing your flapper dance.
I love this dance. It's so cute. She's the dancing cake girl at the party. lowering herself to, make a few bucks while she's pursuing her stage dreams. We've all been there.
And Dawn harasses her on the job.
He's such a dick. He's really just very not, he's very not likable. That's good words together.
Yeah,
he's not very likable.
That is something I noticed with this movie is like in the early parts, I did not like Gene Kelly. I didn't like his character. I was just like, I wasn't really into him. And then there is like a scene coming up very shortly where they're like, actually, he's good. And then the rest of the movie, I'm like, this guy's great. I love him.
Yeah, it's a very abrupt change. Meanwhile, poor Cosmo is just good guy all around. And we're like, who cares? Well, not all of it.
Working a job. He doesn't have the house or the fame or the anything, but
exactly
gainfully employed, I guess. As like, I was trying to figure out what his job is. So I think his job is when they're filming scenes, he like plays music, but it doesn't it doesn't end up in the movie or anything. I guess that might have been a type of person you had in a production back in the day. Yeah,
I guess so. I don't know all the ins and outs of silent movie creation, but
I want that job for movies today, but I'm just gonna like sit on the floor cross-legged with like a synthesizer, just doing like filter sweeps. It only works for sci-fi movies. It's a really niche job.
Ridley Scott, call us. So at this after party, we also get this is a demonstration of a talking picture, and everyone's
my mouth
like,
is moving and sound is coming out.
This guy was very like John Waters meets Werner Herzog. Like he was a very unnerving gentleman to watch, but I liked it like in a way that I was like, who is this? I feel like I should probably know or something, but I don't. And
yeah, he kind of has a look of like familiarity to him.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like a Zoom call for a second, I gotta say, just because he was so close to the camera. I think that's just
you had a little
sort of
panic attack.
Psychological breakdown that's happening over here.
And the group's like, what in the witchcraft is going on? And the studio head's like, it'll never amount to a thing. Forget about these.
Oops.
So as the night goes on, Dawn continues to be a dick to Kathy, and then she throws a cake or a pie, I'm not sure, into his face, but he ducks and oopsie, hits Lena.
Yeah, the pie to the face, that feels very old-timey humor.
Yeah, lots of physical comedy in this.
Yep.
Love it. Lena kind of deserves it, but also does she? I don't know. Maybe not yet.
I mean, she didn't deserve that pie. That was meant for Dawn. Dawn deserved it.
Yeah, Dawn did deserve it. But he's like weeks later, he's in the studio going on a studio tour. I don't know why all these like sound stages are right next to each other with no bear. I guess there's no sound. You don't need to worry about it.
I had that thought too. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess you could do that because it wouldn't make a difference. You could have your cowboy heist next to your super racist, whatever was going on in that first one.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. I was surprised this movie wasn't more racist than it was, because I think that's maybe the only moment we really get glaring racism.
Yeah, I think so. Nothing else comes to mind.
Yeah, not too bad considering a lot of the other musicals from around this time. Anyway. So Don's still stressing about what Kathy has said to him weeks later. He found out she lost her job and he feels bad. So he does have a conscience. And Cosmo tries to make him feel better in the most frantic like display of musical madness that I've ever seen. And make him laugh. I'm really curious to know what you felt about this number.
Yeah. So this kind of feels like the first musical number. Like there's been some music and I guess like, you know, the earlier scene where they're like singing and dancing might kind of count, but that didn't feel like a musical. That didn't feel like it was, you know, like this is the musical part of the musical. That felt like characters in a room where people were singing and dancing.
Right.
That is not an important distinction to make. But this was like, you know, the first like, all right, we're going to do music for 4 minutes straight. This is fine. So I watched the movie twice. The first time I watched it, I was like, you know, paying attention the whole time. Like, okay. The second time I watched it, I was like, all right, this is definitely, you know, it goes on a little bit long, I guess I'll say. But like Donald O'Connor is like phenomenal at everything he's doing here. Just like the dancing, he's doing kind of like dancing physical comedy. He's taken some hits. He's flopping around on the ground doing backflips. It looks painful multiple times. I was like, my knee would not enjoy any of that. He does some like some Jim Carrey rubber face at one point. Yeah, I don't know. It's impressive. I mean, the song is stuck in my head, but that's not necessarily a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, it's cool. If the whole movie was like this, I would have gotten very tired of it. But just as a scene, I think it's great. Cut it by 1 minute would be my only thing.
I love Donald O'Connor. I think he was 27 when they filmed this, so he wasn't like a 19-year-old boy who can just do backflips like it's nothing. Not that 27 is old, but the fact that he did that, and I wish I would have paid more attention to the cuts. I don't know how many there were, but I know that there weren't as many as you would probably see today. Like, movie stars don't need to be able to do this today. And he could sing and dance and act and was hilarious. So much respect to him. I think he's so outrageously talented. I feel like, okay, you're not a huge SNL person, right? So you probably don't remember Joseph Gordon-Levitt's opening monologue where he recreated this scene.
That is too deep a cut for me.
My God. Okay, so I feel like that has influenced how I view this original version. No hate to Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but he seems like he's got a lot of like frantic energy that makes me like, it's that theater kid energy that makes me a little nervous. And it was so uncomfortable to watch, not in a good like, ooh, what's this way, but in like I can't deal with this, please calm down kind of way. Like I'm gonna have to turn away, and that's haunting me. And so every time I watch this, it's sullied a little bit by that monologue.
Interesting.
Monologue in quotes.
So is he doing the same? It's the same song, like the same
kind of... The same song, the same bit. He like went out and said something like, I love this and I've always wanted to do it and they're going to let me do it and here we go. And then he was like, ha 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 ha. And I was like, it was like a clown house. I was like, I want off this ride. I don't like it.
I'm going to have to check that out after. Yeah, I mean, based on your description, and if I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think he's a good actor, but that does not sound appealing to me at all.
No, I don't like it at one bit, and I don't think you would. But I mean, there are a lot of great little bits, like the stuffed doll.
Wait, sorry. What if Joseph Gordon-Levitt did it, but he was wearing the face makeup from Looper, where he kind of looks like Bruce Willis? That might make it kind of okay, right?
I would prefer that somehow.
All right.
I think my mind would have blown up.
If he gets on SNL again, we got to convince him the way to go.
Yeah, we'll just reach out to our contacts at SNL.
Yep.
Okay, so everyone calms down a little bit, and then we find out that Lena was the one that got Kathy fired. Of course. You know what? If a server came up to me at a party and for no reason just threw a baked good in my face, I'd be like, excuse me, I'd like to talk to your man. I'd probably pull a bit of a Karen myself.
Wow. Okay. I was going to say this whole storyline feels very 2021. Yeah. But what if, you got pied in the face and she was like, look, this guy at the party was harassing me and I was trying to put a pie in his face and I accidentally hit you.
Yeah. If we had a conversation, I would then take the pie and throw it in. I would assist with the pie.
You would peel the pie off your face and just fling it like you're a monkey throwing feces.
Yeah.
At the bad Me Too, man.
Exactly. But Don's very angry when he finds out what Lena did, which I mean, I get it. But, Don, you were the one really, you shouldn't have been messing around with Kathy's emotions. So, you know how women get so hysterical? So then there's this scene of them filming, and I love this so much, where they're just spitting venom at each other, and they're acting physically as if they are in love, and saying these awful things to one another, and they're so great.
Yeah, I like Dawn really goes for the reptile comparisons a lot. Like, you rattlesnake, or I don't like her half as much as I hate you, you reptile. Later on, he calls her a boa constrictor.
Yeah, I love their dynamic. It's so good. And the scene is interrupted because the head of the studio is like,
we got to make a talkie.
yeah, the jazz singer, that talking picture we were all shitting on a few scenes earlier, is doing well. So now we're going to make a talking picture out of the Dueling Cavalier, which is the one they're filming now. We get this kind of wild montage of these talking pictures. It's so intense.
So I wrote this down as flapper fever dream. It's
That's exactly it.
It's freaky. There's like disembodied legs doing the can and like these like ladies dressed as nutcrackers, and the music seems to be like speeding up. It's
wild. But pretty impressive for the time. I mean, pretty impressive graphics and effects.
Yeah, there's the disembodied legs in this shot, and then there's another shot towards the end after the big like Broadway scene where they like zoom in on Gene Kelly, and he's kind of like floating over everything. And I mean, it's like, you know, it's a green screen thing, but I was like, wait a minute, I didn't know they could do that back then. Like this is going quite a ways back. And also like aesthetically, just the way. I've seen a lot of footage of people in front of green screens while the background is like moving around, and usually you think I associate that with like public access television or something, like or someone doing the weather. But in that case, it was like just the way it was executed. It aesthetically looked really good. I was like, I like that.
Yeah, I agree. This section was also weird because we go from that to this number that they're filming. They're filming a musical. And Kathy's a dancer in this. And it's the song Beautiful Girl, which is fine. But then they go into this weird like fashion version, and it's like so-and-so is wearing such and such from such and such. And this goes on a very long time. It's all of it's just weird and almost unnecessary. Maybe it is completely unnecessary. But I guess all to get to the point that, oh, there's that. Who's that girl? And it's Kathy. I want to talk to her. She's got something.
So,
and then Dawn can find her.
This movie has an interesting way of presenting stuff. What I mean by that is like it does feel like a lot of things in this movie. Okay, The Sound of Music. The Sound of Music kind of tells the story. It's very linear. It's like, you know, the woman and the family, and then the songs just kind of spring up sort of organically as like, oh, now I'm gonna sing the song about teaching you music, or like, you know, my favorite things because we're in a scary thunderstorm, stuff like that. This movie, I think, really just kind of sticks shit in whatever way it needs to give you that scene, and I actually think it's done kind of well most of the time, that it totally works. Like later on in the movie we get like a 10-minute, it's kind of the ultimate kind of, I think, where they spent the budget on. And literally the pretense to showing you that scene is like, well, the movie needs to have a scene that looks like this. And then they just cut to it, you know? So I think in this case, I don't know, they just want to show us some like cool dancey number and colors. And like, I think that part looks really cool and I like it. So the fact that it's just sort of there, even if it doesn't make sense or need to be, just kind of fits with the way the movie tends to do these things.
Yeah, I agree, and I think a lot of these movies are definitely are definitely like that. Like these musicals, other than the ones that really are like, you know, you'd compare them to like A Sound of Music, that really the songs help tell the story, whereas this is more like, and here's a number. And which is interesting because sort of in the 50s, this kind of movie started to be less popular. But this was the early 50s, so I guess it was still happening.
Yeah, like, okay, so the other examples of this, I think, are Good Morning. That sort of comes out of nowhere. You know, it's just like, all right, we're doing this song about staying up late. And maybe even Singin' in the Rain. Like, they're just kind of like, they're not, I guess they are sort of part of the story. Oh, not really. Like well, I don't know, whatever. We'll get to it when we get to those scenes. But yeah, it's just, I sort of appreciated its willingness to just be like, look, we need a song here. Here's the song.
Yeah. Very much of the time. I agree. And in such, we see where Kathy is, so Dawn can go and apologize. And these two flirt hard. And then they fall in love like immediately. She really turns around. She kind of exposes herself as a fan of his at this point. And then he gets warm about it, and he's like, "Oh, you think I'm great, huh? Well, that cool. Gets me real hot, so let's do it, baby girl."
Well, I mean, he also just kind of like stuck up for her and was like, "Yeah, we want her on the project." And I think he's a bit apologetic in the scene, if I recall correctly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely abrupt. Like they go from like sort of being nemesises to being like in love immediately. But you know what? I think I like the lead up to the song, the conversation they're having. I thought it was really nice. Like I liked it. I thought it was really cute. And I think the song is nice. Like this is one of the highlights of the movie for me. Actually, I really like this part because it just looks really nice. Like they go into this big sound stage and there's the background and the lights and turns on the wind machine. And, yeah, like this is kind of a little bit like jerking off Celebration of Hollywood in a way, you know, like hey, look at this, like, we're making a movie here, but I'm just like, yeah, it looks fucking cool. I like it. Yeah, so and the dancing is, you know, I think this is the first time we get really into the sort of tap dancing part. But it's sort of like a mix of like romantic waltz and tap dancing.
Yeah, I've always find this part a little bit boring, but it looks good. Like they do a good job. I didn't know you were such a romantic, Jason. You enjoyed this a lot, huh?
Don't tell anyone.
Okay. Don't worry. Only like 3 people will listen to this anyway. So. Yeah, it is a nice scene. And you're right. Like, this sort of celebration of what Hollywood can do and what movies can do and the magic of movie making, I guess, is really sort of, you know, spun into this bit here.
Yeah, something else actually that I noticed in this scene was the camera work. They're using, I guess it's a crane, something that lets you kind of like be above and go down, zoom in on someone, and then come back out and stuff like that. There's a lot of that in this movie, and that was something that stood out in this scene too. Is like they're dancing. And the lighting and all that stuff, and then just the way the camera is kind of like how it follows them and stuff, I thought really kind of like makes the scene just look a nice visual thing to look at.
Yeah, I agree. So they're in love very quickly. And we see that they are in preparation now for the rest of the film that is going to be in sound. So they are taking voice and diction lessons, which are so silly.
Round tones.
My sisters and I used to die over this. And I can't stand him. And I can't stand him. We used to say that to each other. Like, we still continue to use that line in that annoying voice. I mean, it's so funny, I think. And then I think maybe one of my favorite song and dance numbers from this, Moses Supposes, happens, which is, I think, a lot of fun and really high energy, but not like frantic in a way that makes me feel like I'm out of control and I need to look away.
Yeah, this one I think was one that maybe didn't do as much for me. It's I mean they're doing the comedy tap dancing and they do it well. So it certainly succeeds in that regard. I think I was just sort of less into that kind of stuff, like especially after seeing Make 'Em Laugh 15 minutes ago. Like this kind of like that stuff kind of all feels a little bit samey after a while.
I gotcha. I think as just a lover of tap dance, watching this and what they're doing and with the kind of precision and synchronicity that they're doing it with just always blows me away. I always rewatch this number like 2 or 3 times because it just makes me so happy. And thinking about hopping on and off of a chair or a desk with the ease in which these gentlemen do it is actually like an astounding feat to me. So I really like this scene. And it's just a lot of fun.
They really do bully that poor diction coach, though. Like, what did he deserve?
Yeah, he's really just doing his job.
Yeah. And they're just like, let's just stack objects on him.
As much as I like Cosmo, he's a little bit like the kid in the class that can't focus. the class clown.
Yeah, yeah.
Here he's doing that rubber face bit.
Not taking anything seriously. And the guy sees him and is very offended.
Yeah. And he's like, my life's work.
He's like, I can't complain because they'll fire me.
Yeah, these Hollywood celebrities have run of the land.
Yeah, and we poor working class diction coaches bear the brunt of their narcissism.
He's in like a 3-piece suit with like a monocle or something.
Yeah.
I think he's fine. I think this guy's fine. And then they're filming, and I really love this scene with the mic in the bush and the director. My note, what I wrote it. Oh my God, what's happening to my brain today? That this director is you trying to explain to me what I need to set up and do to record this podcast. And you're so patient. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah, this whole section of the movie and the next scene where they go and see it in the theater really speaks to anybody who does audio production. Because I was just like, when you do this thing where you don't talk into the mic, it just sounds like shit. Yeah, when we were setting this podcast up, I explained, like, you talk into the microphone and then a cable goes across the room and then it gets recorded and then I edit it later. Which is not actually true. You pretty much understood everything and you have impeccable mic technique. I've never had to complain about how you talk into a mic. Whereas I have worked with like multiple people with mics set up and like explain to them beforehand, like, you need to talk into the microphone. You can't turn your head.
Right.
And if you don't have headphones for them to wear and monitor themselves, they're just like clueless and you just end up with garbage. So with the director losing his mind, that's me.
It's so great. I really enjoyed the wire in the dress moment as well, where the studio head comes in and is like, what's this doing here? This is dangerous. And
yoink,
flips her up. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, the screen test of the movie was so funny too, like with just how bad it sounds. Like, and it really made me want to go and look into how they managed all of these things in these older films, like the pearls. Everyone's voices sound like shit. What else was happening in that scene? Just props falling.
Yeah, like he throws the stick and it clunks on the ground. His like suit is all squeaky. His dialogue is super shitty, like when they're rehearsing or filming, and he's like, yeah, how about instead of this I just say I love you a bunch of times like I always do, and he's like, whatever, go for it. And then it just like looks so terrible.
Yeah, I like when it gets out of sync. The no, yes. Yeah, I love that part too. I think this film, I don't know, self-aware is not the word for it, but it definitely, it's really making fun of Hollywood while celebrating Hollywood and movie making at the same time. And it's just got such a nice balance of that. It's done in a really joyful way that's really appealing to people who don't know a lot about all the behind the scenes, how movies are made. I don't know. I think it's, very well balanced. And then these guys are like drinking milk at, I think, Dawn's house. Is that where they are?
Yeah, I think so. Which, again, like, this movie is filmed in studios a lot, and this house looks fucking massive just because it's like this huge set. Yeah, they're staying up till 1 a.m, getting fucked up on milk and eating sandwiches. That's what you do when you find out your career is over.
Sometimes you just need a good glass of milk to get you through it. And they're like, what are we going to do? And they decide to turn the Dueling Cavalier into a musical. And then they're like, yeah, but oh wait, Lena's the worst. And then they're like, well, Kathy can dub Lena's lines. And Don shows some humanity here. He's like, I don't know, that'll fuck up Kathy's career.
Yeah, he's very, he's being considerate about her career not getting destroyed by it. So this is where Good Morning shows up. Now, this is a song I think that feels like they just needed a song. Like, if you just kind of look at, like, what is the song about or how does it fit into the story? It's like they get the idea to do the ventriloquism bit, essentially. And then they're like, oh, we've been up all night drinking milk. It's 1 a.m. Good morning. And then they do that, and it's a totally fine song and dance number. But and then the song ends, and then they're like, "Oh shit, Lena sucks at everything. Now we got to figure that out." And I'm like, "Wait, that whole thing could have not existed, and nothing would change."
Yeah, but then what would I have had to sing at my acting school audition? And by sing, I mean scream, just with gusto, because I had no vocal training at that point, and I didn't know who to talk to. So I went in and I was like, I'm just going to show them I really mean it. And I sure did.
You went super cyan theater kid?
I was so intense that at one point I got out of tune with the music, the backing music that I brought, because I couldn't even hear it.
Oh, wow.
But you know what? I didn't get into that program, and that's probably a good thing. So it worked out the way it was supposed to. Also, little tidbit, apparently they shot this for 15 hours. And Gene Kelly ended up using the first take.
Hell yeah.
And poor Debbie Reynolds, so her feet were bleeding by the end of this, obviously. And she was ordered 2 days bed rest by a physician after they did this because she was in such bad shape. So I know in the intro I talked about, like, there's stories about Gene Kelly that make me enjoy this less because I'm always thinking of it when I'm watching him. It's a little bit of that, but it's also and other things. But there's a story about when they were in dance rehearsals for this on the MGM lot. Debbie Reynolds was just like really getting it from Gene Kelly, and he was really, really hard on her. But she did not have dance training. She was a singer and she was an actor. And I was like, well, why hire someone with no dance training and then be a dick to them about their dancing? So there's this very famous story about how she at one point went into another onto another stage or something, or a back room, and hid under a piano and was crying. And a man came up to her and said, hey, you're not dying. This isn't the end of the world. Let me help you, and helped her get the routine down. And that man was Fred Astaire. And
oh, wow.
So that just puts the divide between Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire even further apart, and adds to my real admiration of Fred Astaire personally. But anyway, I always think that that's such like a Hollywood thing. Like, again,
that sounds like bullshit.
What are the odds? No, but she said that it was true because I had heard that for years, and I was like, yeah, that sounds like a bullshit story. But she was like, no, it's the real thing.
It's like, maybe it's like a Stanley Kubrick thing though, where he just psychologically tortured Shelley Duvall on the set of The Shining to the point that she had like a complete breakdown, and it was worth it because that movie's awesome. And that's what happened here.
Got to break her down so she can sing as cheerfully and gleefully as she did.
You know what? Her dancing was very good. I didn't know whether she was new at it or not. I thought she did a good job. So good on her for delivering that performance.
Yeah.
But really, Gene Kelly did the work there.
I would just like to say, I disagree with Jason's stance on psychological torture on movie sets. Before we move on.
So a horrible realization I had watching this song. I was like, I fucking heard this song. I know I've heard it. Like it's it's part of culture. But I was like, where have I heard it? Because I know I've heard it a bunch of times. And I realized it was from maybe the first commercial for Viagra from like the late 90s. And it's this ad where like, this dude in a suit gets out of his house and then he's like hopping down the street and he's just having a great morning. And then at the end you find out why. Boner pills.
Beautiful. Really adds to the viewing experience.
That's all I can think of now when the song comes on.
And speaking of Singin' in the Rain, here's when we get the Singin' in the Rain number. Well, wait, so maybe it's not Don's house because he goes out, he leaves.
Oh, you're right. Well, yeah. So when they're in
Where
the house,
are they?
Because they say like he says he's putting it up for auction in the morning, and then Cosmo's like, well, the banks aren't open on Sunday or whatever. So that made me think it was Don's place. I don't know. Maybe it's part of the studio or something like that.
Don's going out late at night to meet his milk dealer.
Yeah. Gotta re-up.
Obviously, this is the most famous number from this movie. I really enjoy it as much as Gene Kelly makes me a little bit sad for Debbie Reynolds' behalf. This is such a joyful scene. It's so well done. I mean, he's a beautiful dancer, and he sings this really so beautifully. And the whole thing looks really beautiful as well.
Yeah.
What's more to say? It's just great.
So going into this movie, I really didn't know what the Singing in the Rain thing was all about. Like the Sound of Music again. The Sound of Music makes sense in a couple different ways. Like it's a song, but you know, she's like teaching the kids music, and the kids learn music, and the family gets music back in their lives, and what that all means and stuff like that. So I was like, Singing in the Rain, like what is that going to be about? You know, and the movie opens with like a short 10-second kind of clip of them all in the rain suits dancing. So I don't know. I thought thematically it would have something to do with the plot. Absolutely does not. It's just a song that they put in at this moment of the movie. Yeah. It works. I think what the scene actually really does capture is if you've ever been out late at night and you're walking home alone and you're in a good mood, you know, like maybe you had a date that went well or something like that, or you're hanging out with your friends and life is good. It's really evocative of that, so it works as a piece. But I was just like, oh really? No, there's just that song is in the movie at one point. That's why it's called that.
Yeah, is this the only song and dance number featuring exclusively Gene Kelly?
I think so.
Yeah, maybe that's why. He's like, look, this is the number one piece. This is what we're going to call the movie. Singin' in the Rain. I'm the star.
I mean, it is the most famous song from this movie, I think, that most people would recognize. The opening credits also say, suggested by the song, Singin' in the Rain. Like...
Yeah, maybe this is a very old song.
Well, a lot of the songs in this movie come from elsewhere. Like, this is not all original music. Yeah, that's true. And then there's another number that I can't even remember I watched this a couple of days ago, and I've completely forgotten what this number was. Would you? Yeah, so this plays, my note for this just says, nice to see a plan come together, because it's only about a minute. Like, I don't think they really play the whole song. And it's when, what's her name is acting, she's acting it, and then, Kathy is like voicing over it, and then they put the two together, and you hear, it cuts or fades to black and white, and you see the sort of finished product. So it's a short little bit, but then it comes up later, I think. Right. And that kind of goes right into Broadway Melody. Yeah, this part is fucking awesome. Yeah. Again, not really integral to the plot, just a really cool way to showcase the talents and some cool design and camera elements when they're like, maybe we could do something like this. Yeah. Well, so there's the scene before where they're like talking through you know, how this is all going to work. And the conceit they come up with is like, well, we want to have some contemporary stuff in it. So like, I don't know, guy gets bonked on the head and then he thinks that he's in the past. And I think that's how they use the footage of whatever the original movie was going to be. But then we also have this part, so we can add the Charleston, which was the nene of its time. And yeah, so it's totally just a bullshit conceit, but they admit to it by doing it in the movie as well, which is what is brilliant. Yeah, and this is like I think this is where they might have spent a lot of money on this movie, because I think it's the most expensive looking part. Like it opens with Gene Kelly's like kind of in the dark. You can tell again it's this huge like stage they're recording this in, and then all these like neon lights show up, and I was like, oh, interesting. And then the camera like moves, and then I realized like, oh, those are actually like, that's not just superimposed stuff, that's a real set with all these neon lights they built. And then the lights come up and like 5,000 extras start running in, and then we're in Broadway time. Yeah, this is wild. The scale is enormous. Like, I can't even imagine what this would look like today. I guess we don't really make movies like this anymore. I mean, it would look like, go look at what filming a Marvel movie looks like, and it's just a bunch of people in ping pong suits in front of a green screen. Like, that's how this would be made today. Exactly. But I think that's why it's so cool to watch now, because the sets look so amazing. Like, they're
the sets look like they're drawn on the screen. They're so cool. And we get so many different styles. Like at first it's like, yeah, all these colors and that's really popping at you. And then it moves into like a softer piece. And then we come back and have more Broadway. Gotta dance. My sisters and I also scream that too often in the house. I love that we see Sid Charisse. She is a queen. She is one of my favorite dancers to watch in classic movies.
Is she the leggy lady in green?
She is the lady with those beautiful gams. Is that what they call them?
That's what the kids are calling them.
Yeah, that is
nice gams,
her.
I say, as they escort me off of the bus.
Yeah. It's great. She's such an awesome dancer. I love the dance between the two of them and how she comes back later with the infinity set. It's like goes on forever and it's got kind of this weird staircase it looks like an illusion. With her big white billowy scarf piece of her costume that's kind of worked into the choreography of this.
Yeah, I think this might be my favorite part of the movie, actually. I liked, maybe I just got the hots for, what's her name? But no, I liked it. Like, they do their kind of like, she's like the gangster's girl or whatever, and they're kind of dancing and getting close, and then he's like snatches her away. And then they see each other later, and it turns into like a dream sequence. And I like that dance a lot. Like I thought it looked really nice. I love that set. They were doing a kind of ballet thing, which is not something that had been in the movie before. Like I like that dancing the most, actually. Like of all the different styles, like that was the one that I thought was I don't know, just interesting, I guess. He's got like kind of a Marlon Brando outfit going on. He's looking pretty good in that, I think. And then it goes back to normal, and then they zoom out, which I thought also was something that I kind of like a lot for some reason, when they just like show him in front of the green screen and then they like zoom the camera out, and like I said earlier, that could look incredibly stupid, but it just actually works in the way they do it.
Yeah, it looks pretty seamless. Again, pretty impressive for 1952. Like I didn't necessarily remember that from the last time I watched this, which was, a number of years ago, but I wasn't expecting it to look so seamless, these effects that they threw in there. And everything looks really crisped too. I mean, I know that they've like, remastered everything, but everything looks great.
Film, like you can take anything put on film and like go to the highest resolution you can imagine. Like the actual like resolution quality of actual film is so high that I'm sure I don't know the version I watched, what the history of it and if it's been like remastered, but you could definitely take that stuff out and make it look amazing. They did that with the Batman TV series. Actually, they made a Blu-ray release of it, and they just like scanned the original films, and apparently it looks incredible. Like it's just like so sharp.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think the last time I watched this was on VHS. We have the VHS tape.
That is not sharp.
And I watched the shit out of it when I was younger. So after they exhaust themselves with this enormous number, Don's going to make an announcement. He's in love with Kathy and Lena sucks. And Lena's got to get a jump on this because she's like, what do you think? I'm dumb or something? And she manipulates the press in the studio. And it all comes out that she's a superstar and she's getting everyone jazzed about this new talking picture she's in.
Yeah, she goes like full villain for this part of the movie, but is a great villain.
Yeah, she's wonderful in this scene. She's so funny.
Yeah, she's got some good lines. I think my favorite was, I make more money than Calvin Coolidge put together. Or I can sue.
Yeah. She's going for it. You know what? She knows what she wants and she's going to get it. Good for her.
She's a girl boss.
So we get to the screening. It all goes well. Everyone loves the movie, of course. and Lena loses it backstage. She wants to go back on stage and make a speech. And they're like, I don't fucking think so.
No, well, she lays out her evil plan. She's like, Kathy's going to work behind me forever. And there's nothing you all can do about it. And then like the studio head guy's just like, oh, this is overwhelming. I was like, okay, buddy, grow backbone. And then she's like, yeah, I'm going to give a speech. And they're like, yeah, you should go give a speech.
Yeah. So these three men, the studio head, Don, and Cosmo. Cosmo's there through everything. Being great, but we just really haven't given him his credit, I don't think. He's always there.
Yeah, he's good.
He's got right-hand man.
Good stupid lines when he's like, call me a cab. And he's like, okay, you're a cab. Yeah. Top tier writing there.
So they're like, Kathy, you gotta go backstage. And she's like, this is the end of you and me, Don. Don't ever speak to me again. And he's like, sure. Just calm down. Just shut up and do it.
You're being hysterical.
Yeah. So then we get the big reveal. Lena's on stage. The curtain goes up.
She goes out on stage and everyone's buying it. And then like the guys are just so fucking psyched to ruin her. Yeah. Like you can see the glee in their eyes. They're like, yeah. And then they open the curtain. Kathy's confused as hell. She looks terrified.
She runs off. But then Dawn sings to her, gives her dues, and all is forgiven yet again.
I mean, I think that was a good plan. I think they maybe could have told her what they were going to do beforehand. That might have been nice to be like, look, here's what we're going to do.
Maybe Kathy wouldn't have gone through with it, though.
That's true. That's true. Kathy does seem kind of like pure. Because, like, okay, it's incredibly mean what they did. I think in the circumstances, it was the right thing to do, I guess. Like, I don't know how else you resolve that situation. You got to ruin her career. But, like, when they did that, it really gave me Carrie vibes. Where they're just like, we're just going to ruin her on the stage. And like, hey, in this case, she doesn't have telepathic power, so it works out. But you're always taking that chance.
That's true. Something to keep in mind, listeners. If you're going to attempt the ruin of somebody's career publicly, always keep in mind that they may have supernatural powers that could come back at you.
Make sure you know of at least one exit that won't get barred shut when the building gets set on fire. Have an escape plan.
Keep listening for more tips on exacting embarrassing public revenge fantasies.
It's all about safety.
I mean, this is kind of it. This is the end. He sings to her. Everyone's like, Kathy's a voice hero. Yay! And everyone's happy. And Lena is destroyed. She'll never work in this town again.
Yay!
And then we see the billboard and Dawn and Kathy are standing in front of it and they're so happy and they have a classic Hollywood kiss, not some kind of grosso kiss like Ethan and Uma Gattaca style. We see a real screen kiss. I really appreciate this. They're not kissing like a couple of horny grossos. And that's the end.
Yay! And no end credits because they put them at the beginning because this movie is old.
Yes. So overall, I mean, I don't know. I still love this movie. I think it's great. It's one of the, I think, best known Hollywood musicals of all time. Even though Gene Kelly makes me kind of angry as a human, I still think he's a brilliant performer. This is a great movie. If you have not seen it and for some reason listen to this, I think you should go and watch this. It's really funny, even if you don't think you're going to like musicals. It's a really funny, clever movie and kind of an interesting glimpse into Hollywood history, not only from 1952 when this movie was released, but before that when they were moving from silent film to the talkies.
Yeah, this movie is pretty cool. What I was sort of anticipating or maybe a bit worried about was like the make him laugh bit and that type of humor, and maybe the line where he says like, okay, you're a cab, like that would be the totality of the movie and particularly the humor in it. I thought it was actually very clever. Like I thought there was just funny dialogue, funny delivery, performances, like the whole bit where they're watching the movie in the theater, like that it was really funny. Just all the like, you know, sight and sound gags they put in there. So it's you know, that stuff all worked for me. I really did dig the way it's like, you know, it feels so different from stuff today where it's like, we just got this gigantic fucking room that we're going to film a movie in, and we're going to build an expensive set. Like that set for the Singing in the Rain scene looks great, you know, like it looks so cool. Also, Gene Kelly, trooper in that scene, because I bet that water was freezing cold.
Yeah.
So while he may torture his co-stars, he'll take a look in when he needs to, too, for the sake of the art. Yeah, but anyway, so that kind of stuff I really dug. Like I love the color. I just like the way it looks is great, and I love the way the camera moves around and all that stuff. It's a gorgeous looking movie. Yeah, would recommend.
Yeah, I give this movie 9 mics in the bush out of 10.
I'm gonna give it 9 flapper fever dreams out of 10.
Perfect. I think this is the first movie where we've given it the same rating.
Yeah, I was thinking of what it would have been, and I think I feel good about that 9 for this one. I really do think it's that good.
Yeah. Look, we thought this movie might tear us apart. It's brought us closer together than ever.
That is the power of Hollywood.
Okay, well, thanks for listening. If you have any comments or want to give us your opinion of Singing in the Rain or whatever other movie, or have a recommendation for us, you can email us at xpostwatcho@gmail.com. We're on Facebook and Instagram at xpostwatcho. If you could give us a rating, preferably a good rating on your podcast platform of choice, we would much appreciate that. And we hope you will join us next week when we come back to talk about Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas with a special guest. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.